Hello students, welcome back to the lecture series on international business. In this lecture, we will discuss the modes of entry and this is the part 1. The topics I am going to cover today are modes of entry into international business. There are different modes. Today we will discuss the non-equity mode. So, modes of entry. Once a firm decides to enter a foreign market, it must decide on a mode of entry. Companies can enter foreign markets through various modes, ranging from low risk options like exporting to higher risk, high control strategies like foreign direct investments. Now, these modes of entry may be different. It includes exporting, licensing, franchising, joint ventures, and wholly owned subsidiaries. The choice of entry mode depends on factors like level of risk involved, resources available, and desired level of control over operations in the foreign market. Besides that, we have to also think about where the company stands in the stages of internationalization or international orientation. If it is at the first stage, as we have discussed in our previous lecture, that when a domestic company is going international or the basic international company, they believe in more in exporting then the FDI mode. Later on, when it becomes a multinational corporation or a transnational corporation, they move towards we can say FDI, foreign direct investment, or greenfield or brownfield investment. The modes of entry may be subdivided into two categories: non-equity mode and equity mode or investment mode. We will discuss today in non-equity mode. In non-equity mode also, it may be categorized into trade related mode and contractual agreements. So, when we talk about the trade related mode, this includes the following: exporting, both direct exporting and indirect exporting; counter trade, that is barter, counter purchase, offset and buyback. Contractual agreements is the second category of non-equity mode, which includes international leasing, international licensing, international franchising and turnkey projects. So, we will discuss the first part of the non-equity mode today, and that is exporting. Exporting, students, you are very well aware of that, and that we all in a laymanish language we say that when we send goods from our domestic country to a foreign country, we consider it as exporting. So, exporting is most widely used traditional mode of international business, and it is the process of selling of goods and services produced in one country to other countries. So, if you are going beyond the boundaries of your country and selling the goods in another country, we call it exporting. There are different forms of exporting, which may be direct exporting or indirect exporting. Now, there are different factors which affects exporting. The factors may be government policies affecting imports, exports, foreign exchange. You know that in India we have an EXIM policy, export import policy, and we have a FEMA policy also. A particular Foreign Exchange Management Act is also there, which controls international operations. So, previously before 91 or opening up of the economy, there was stringent rules to imports and exports, and many items were not allowed to be imported and exported. So, government policies swiftly changed after 1991, and now we find that importing and exporting of the goods has become a common phenomena, and foreign exchange also here also many changes have taken place. FDI investment has also been allowed in India in many sectors up to 100%. Image of the country and customer preferences is another factor which affects exporting. We have discussed in our previous lectures that country of origin has an impact on exporting. Like when the goods are manufactured in India or China, there is a general perception in the Western world that the goods might not be of good quality. So, that will affect your exports. Availability of distribution and marketing network is another factor which affects exporting. So, if you have a distribution network in the foreign country, then it will be helpful for you. You may concentrate on production, and the distribution and marketing work will be taken up by the intermediaries. Infrastructural support in the host country also affects exporting, whether communication facility is there or not, banking facility is there or not, transportation facility is there or not. All these factors will affect exporting to that country. Advantages of exporting. Exporting is the simplest and easiest mode of entering foreign markets. No funds or investment is needed if exporting is done through intermediaries. So, what you are not investing anything, this is done at the first stage of internationalization, where whatever excess amount of production is there, you are selling it off in the foreign market. Or if there is a saturation in your domestic market, demand saturation in the domestic market, you are selling the excess in the foreign market. So, here it involves less risk because you have not made a major investment in the foreign country. You may be working through the intermediaries, or you have your sales representative over there. So, it requires minimum of investment, hence less risk is there. Disadvantages of exporting. The cost of product increases due to the higher transportation cost, insurance and custom duties. So, when you are sending goods from your home country to the foreign markets, then naturally the transportation cost will be higher because you are not manufacturing the product there, you are manufacturing it at your home country and then sending it or transporting it to the other country. There are freight charges, insurance charges and custom duties are also there. The product becomes less competitive in international market. Another problem is like when the tariffs are imposed on the products which you are exporting in that in the host country, like what US is doing, it is imposing heavy tariffs on products being imported in that country from other countries. So, then it becomes very difficult for the exporter to enter into the foreign markets because the product becomes too expensive after paying the tariffs, and they do not remain competitive in the international market. And also many of the countries, they have their anti-dumping policies, and because of that they further impose restrictions in the form of quotas on the products being imported from other countries. Import restrictions include these type of tariff and non-tariff barriers in the host country, and they act as a barrier to exporting. Establishing a close contact with the customers in the host country poses a challenge for the exporter. There are different forms of exporting: direct exporting, indirect exporting and intra-corporate transfers. We will discuss each one of them one by one. The first is direct exporting. As the name suggests, there are no intermediaries. The firm sells directly its goods and services in a foreign country without intermediaries. The firm may sell directly through own distribution channels. So, they have a own distribution network, generally a company which has been into export business for some time. They create their own distribution channels and through which they directly sell in the foreign markets, or they may have placed sales representatives in the foreign market who are selling the goods on behalf of the company in the foreign market. Or you can take the help of company of the host country or importing distributors. So, they are not intermediaries in real sense, but they are collaborating with you in selling the goods directly to the customers. Advantages of direct exporting are better control on the selection of the market and choice of foreign representative companies, information and feedback, better relationship with buyers, greater sales and profits. As we have discussed or you know about marketing or distribution channels in marketing, you must have heard about direct marketing. or zero level marketing where there are no intermediaries. Whatever advantages you know about that, that is applicable here in case of direct exporting as well. Because there are no intermediaries, the cost escalation will not be there. You have a better control on your whole set of the distribution channel. Also, you will get directly information and feedback from your customers, and you can maintain a direct relationship with your one-to-one relationship with the buyers. So, this results in knowing the market well. You can understand the taste and preferences of each individual buyers in that market, and you can better serve the customers in the foreign market. So, this will result in greater sales and profits. But there are certain disadvantages of direct exporting as well. The first is higher startup cost and risk. Now, you know that when you do not have any experience in the foreign market, then to establish your distribution network in that foreign market becomes a difficult task, and it is a costly and risky affair also. But investment, we say that in direct exporting is less, because you are not opening your outlet over there or manufacturing unit over there, but nevertheless the distribution cost will escalate. Investment of time, resources and personnel will be there. So, rather than concentrating only in production, what you are doing? You are spending more time in creating the distribution network and channelizing your own employees, looking for resources, setting up the distribution outlets. So, that becomes a challenging task in a foreign land. Organizational changes are also required in case of direct exporting, because you have to additionally think about the foreign market. Longer time to market, because you do not have intermediaries, you have to first understand the market and then create the distribution network, and with your own personnel, then you lose out on time also. Then comes the second form of exporting, and that is indirect exporting. That is exporting through domestically based export intermediaries. There are different types of intermediaries available, and they are export trading companies, export management companies, export merchants, confirming houses and non-conforming purchasing agents. So, these are the intermediaries who take care of distributing the product in the foreign market. So, what they do? First is export trading companies, that is ETCs. They provide support services to suppliers. Local overseas trading partners present the product and quote the enquiries. Second is export management companies. They are similar to ETCs. They do not take export credit risks. They carry one type of product and they do not represent competing ones. Another intermediary can be export merchants. Wholesale companies pay unpackaged products from suppliers or manufacturers for resale overseas under their own brand names and promotions. So, they deal in unbranded product and then they put their own brand name on the product. Confirming houses, intermediate sellers that work for foreign buyers, receiving the product requirements from the clients, negotiate purchases, make delivery and pay the supplier manufacturers, and also act as trade representatives. So, these are different forms, and another last form is non-confirming purchasing agent. They do not pay the suppliers directly. Payments take place between a supplier or manufacturer and a foreign buyer. So, these are the different indirect exporting ways or intermediaries. What are the advantages of indirect exporting? The disadvantage of direct exporting becomes advantages here, that you can access the market very fast because you have a distribution network or intermediaries already established in the foreign country, and they know the likes, dislikes, nuances of working in that market, and they can help you in fast accessing the market. Concentration of resources towards production. The exporter will concentrate in production only, and the rest of the work will be done by the intermediaries. Little or no financial commitment. because you don't have to invest anything in the foreign market, you don't have to create your own distribution network, everything is taken care of by the intermediaries. Clients' exports usually covers most expenses associated with the international sales. Also low risk for the domestic company because investments are less, export management outsourcing is done, and you are getting a specialized service of the intermediaries. So, when you are outsourcing, you are getting the benefit of that in the form of specialized services and efficient services. No direct handling of export process is required, everything is taken care of by the intermediaries. The disadvantage of indirect exporting. There are certain disadvantages also. The advantages we have discussed in direct exporting becomes a disadvantage here, that no control over distribution is there. You are at the mercy of the intermediaries, different export houses and all, and if they do not pay full attention to your product, then naturally your product will suffer in the foreign market. They may be handling different products of different manufacturers from different countries. So, they might not be totally concentrating on your product in that foreign market. Wrong choice of distribution leads to inadequate market feedback. You are not getting the, you will not understand the pulse of the market or the needs and preferences of the market, and the product will then fail in future. Potentially lower sales because it might be possible that intermediary is handling different products of different manufacturers and not promoting only your product. So, your product may suffer in the international market. Third form of exporting is intra-corporate transfers. A company in one country may sell its products to its affiliated company in another country. So, it is like from your one branch to another branch transfer is happening, but the other branch is in foreign country. For example, Hindustan Lever India selling its products to Unilever USA. So, this is another form of exporting. The second non-equity mode. So, first non-equity mode we have discussed is the exporting. The another non-equity mode is counter trade. Counter trade is a trade in which a seller and a buyer from different countries exchange goods and with little or no cash or cash equivalent changing hands. It is a form of flexible financing or payment in international trade. So, how it is different from other kind of trade? Because it is a kind of a barter, in the sense that less of cash, more of payment by kind. So, this is counter trade, one trade happening in one direction and another trade happening in another direction, and both of these is in a way it is a compensation to the other. So, the forms of counter trade may be barter, counter purchase, offset, buyback. We will discuss the different forms one by one. The first is barter. Direct and simultaneous exchange of goods takes place here between the two parties without a cash transaction. So, it is basically goods for goods. This occurs between firm or between a government and a firm, all from two different countries. For example, France and Cuba has a wheat for sugar barter arrangement. France selling wheat to Cuba and Cuba is selling sugar to France. Barter is risky. Now, in this transaction, no cash is happening or very less amount of cash is being transferred. It is goods for goods, goods equivalent. Barter is risky as firms have to be sure that there are exchanging products which have a domestic market to enable them earn a profit. So, barter will happen only if both the countries require those products offered by each other. Second is counter purchase. This is also like barter with a little bit of difference. It is a reciprocal buying agreement in which a firm sells its products to another at one point of time, and it is compensated in the form of others' product at some future time. So, there lies the difference between barter and counter purchase. In barter arrangement, the two products are simultaneously exchanged. But in case of counter purchase, one firm of a country is selling product to another firm in another country at one point of time, but it is not simultaneously that the another firm is selling the goods to that firm. So, it may send the goods later on or in future time. For example, Russia purchased construction machinery from Japan's Komatsu in return of that company agreeing to buy timber from Russia at a later stage. Advantage of counter purchase is it is more flexible than barter, as volume of trade need not be equal at a particular period of time. Third option is offset. It is an agreement whereby one party agrees to purchase goods and services with a specified percentage of its proceeds from the original sale. So, it is again like barter, but here also what is happening that the raw material is given by one company to another, and the other company will be purchasing the other company, and in return they will be purchasing the finished goods. So, both the transactions are offsetting each other. For example, Shanghai Aircraft Manufacturing Corporation of China buying jets from Boeing using its proceeds from the manufacturing the tail sections of the jets for Boeing. So, Chinese company Shanghai Aircraft is manufacturing only the tail portion of the Boeing, and that they are sending to Boeing Corporation, and Boeing is sending a few finished products, that is the Boeing aircraft, to Shanghai Aircraft Manufacturing Corporation. This is a popular mode in sales of expensive military equipment or high cost civilian infrastructure hardware. As per India's Defence Procurement Policy 2005, counter trade obligations were imposed on foreign firms that were awarded a defence contracts of more than rupees 300 crores. Fourth way of counter trade is buyback or compensation arrangement. This is again similar to the offsetting one. It occurs when a firm provides a local company with inputs for manufacturing products, mostly capital equipment, to be sold in the international market. So, one company is selling capital equipment and in return they are buying the finished products. For example, X company is sending say some machines to Y company, and whatever produces there, it is agreeing to buy a portion of that as compensation, that is a buyback or compensation arrangement. One company may agree to take a certain percentage of the output produced by the local firm as partial payment. So, this is the arrangement. Now, for example, a steel producer sends its goods to a foreign company which would use the steel to manufacture shelving. The steel producer would buy back the shelves at a reduced price, partially paying the manufacturer with the raw steel. So, this is a buyback or compensation arrangement. China Tex Shanghai and Fukusuke Corporation Japan buyback arrangement is one of the example, where Fukusuke sold 10 knitting machines and raw materials to China Tex in exchange for 1 million pairs of underwear produced on the knitting machine. So, this is the example of buyback arrangement. The advantage is it helps developing country producers to upgrade technologies and machinery. It also ensures after sale service. So, you can buy the upgraded technologies from the foreign country, but you need not pay in cash. You have to just give your produce to them as a compensation. So, if we summarize the whole mode of entry that we have discussed today, we find that companies can enter foreign markets through various modes, ranging from low risk options like exporting to higher risk options or high control strategies like foreign direct investment. Now, at the initial stages of internationalization of a company, generally they go for low risk options like exporting. And in exporting also, they prefer initially using direct exporting, and later on when they establish a network, indirect exporting can also take place. Modes of entry may be subdivided into non-equity mode and equity mode or investment related mode. Non-equity mode includes trade related mode and contractual agreements. Trade related mode further includes exporting and counter trade. In exporting, we say that exporting is a form of direct export, it may be direct exporting or indirect exporting, and basically we are selling our excess products in the foreign markets. It may be also done through intra-corporate transfers. Also, we have studied counter trade, where lesser compensation is paid in form of cash, more in the form of kind, and it includes barter, counter purchase, offset and buyback. That's for all for today. Thank you. Have a nice day.